The world was watching as the Duchess of Sussex stepped out for her first joint engagement with the Queen on Thursday. So it is perhaps of little surprise that Meghan felt a little self-conscious as she arrived in Cheshire with the monarch. But the initial nerves she showed as she stepped off the train disappeared, as the Duchess confidently held her own in the spotlight. Body language experts analysed the royals' interaction as they attended a bridge opening, met with local officials and visited a library. Speaking to Female, they revealed how Meghan appeared deferential, nervous, but above all gloriously happy to be in the monarch's company. And the fond feeling was certainly mutual, with the Queen clearly delighted by how Meghan performed. Initial nerves. The pair travelled overnight on the royal train, for a day of engagements including the opening the Mersey Gateway Bridge, and Story House in Chester, arriving at Runcorn on Thursday morning. Shortly after stepping off the train, the pair were whisked away by car to the Mersey Gateway Bridge to meet architects, planners and community representatives. The Queen exited the train first, with Meghan following closely behind. Robin Kermode, body language expert and founder of communication consultancy, Zone 2, and author of the best-selling book Speak So Your Audience Will Listen, said Meghan's physicality shows she was slightly nervous about the day ahead. He said, a little tension in her left hand with both shoulders slightly raised shows a little nervousness here, a clear desire to get this right. I suspect we would all behave in the same way in this situation. Meghan has opted for the clutch bag rather than copying the iconic arm handbag hold of the Queen. Once again, she is aware of how her collar is sitting. This causes a little tension in her right hand and a slight arch of the back. The Queen seems unconcerned with her clothes or how they sit. But, of course, she has had many years to get used to this. Deferring to the Queen. The Duchess of Sussex continued to follow behind the Queen, as the royals made their way to the car. A short clip captured by LBC showed a slight moment of confusion over who would climb in the car first. Mr. Kermode said, Meghan is rightly concerned with royal protocol. She gives the Queen status, of course, by hanging back and allowing her to lead. She would expect the Queen to get in the car first. The only giveaway that shows she's feeling a little nervous is in her shoulders, which were unusually down at the front unlike her usual upright posture. This is a very deferential, kind pose and quite understandable. This continued throughout the day, with the Duchess walking behind the Queen, and following her down the line of well-wishers, as they arrived at a library. Gloriously happy. The close bond between the Queen and Meghan became apparent when the pair sat down at a ceremony to open the new Mersey Gateway Bridge. Body language expert Judy James, an industry leader in communication, told how the Queen appeared completely confident in Meghan's ability. She said, the Queen is quite stoic, she didn't make a fuss of Meghan, which can make someone feel anxious. She is clearly completely confident about Meghan's level of confidence. They were very relaxed. At one point they were giggling like teenagers together. The Queen looked delighted to be with her. The Queen was doing everything right for her and made her look like a granddaughter, or a friend whom she is very fond of. She was almost identically fun-loving, and relaxed with her first outing with the Duchess of Cambridge. That's what it reminded me of. It looks as though it really brought out the Queen's fun side. Psychotherapist Toby Ingham added, the body language of the Queen and Meghan is warm, friendly, they look to be enjoying the time they are spending together. There is formality to the occasion as they step from the train, but the overall tone is relaxed and warm. When sitting together they move in towards each other and enjoy a shared joke. The impression of spontaneity and warmth. Sharing a private moment. As Meghan and the Queen chatted through the event, Mr. Kermode noted they were like two friends sharing a private moment. He said, this is a picture of two friends listening to each other, and sharing a private moment in a public arena. Again, both leaning in towards each other, both opting for the relaxed hand position resting on their knees. Meghan again lowering her head, looking up from a lower position, slightly reminiscent of Princess Diana. Commenting on a similar photo of the pair together, Mr. Kermode continued, "Meghan again, leaning in with her weight on her left side towards the Queen. Only someone relaxed enough in Her Majesty's company would be able to do this. Both their smiles reach the corners of their upper eyelids, showing this is a genuine smile. Great to see." Meghan was missing her wingman. The newlywed appeared uncertain of what to do with her hands, as she chatted to the David Parr, chief executive of Halton Council, at the opening of the new Mersey Gateway Bridge in the town of Widnes in Halton, Cheshire. Explaining the behaviour, he said, "It appears that the man on Meghan's right is the cause of her fidgetiness. It looks like she is rather distracted by his interest, information and conversation than anything to do with the Queen. Possibly she is bit bored by the conversation or attention. She appears very polite and responds attentively and initially smiles. Her facial expressions are enthusiastic, but then it appears her concentration and interest fades. She is distracted by where to place her bag. Her busy fidgety hands may be giving away this lack of interest. I think Meghan will be pleased to have been given the honour of travelling with the Queen to the function, but at this point of the event she is distanced and separated from the Queen, and caught up in the protocols of the event. The Queen and the Duchess carried out a number of engagements today, including watching a performance by local school children called Bringing Communities Together, Halton's river crossings over the ages, before the Queen unveiled a plaque to mark the opening of the bridge. The Queen and the Duchess also visited Story House in Chester, where they will be taken on a tour of the building to visit the Children's Library, stopping to meet a Syrian settlement group engaged in craft work. The royal party later watched a performance by Fallen Angels, a dance theatre company for people in recovery from addiction, before moving to the theatre to see a medley of songs from Storyhouse's latest production, A Little Night Music. The Queen and the Duchess will also stopped off at Chester Town Hall, where they attended a lunch as guests of Chester City Council, which will mark the conclusion of their visit to Cheshire.